Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, quid pro quo, or a casual conversation with the White House.
I don't care about politics. I don't care about anything. But I do care about corruption.
The impeachment inquiry continues down a rabbit hole with Ukraine dealings at the forefront of the conversation. Plus, are you tired of the constant robocallers? California is getting closer to putting that problem on your blocked list. Details on the new bill. And climate change is entering the real estate business, a mandate going into effect next year that will change the way California homes are built. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. It's Friday, October 4th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Another historic day in Washington, the White House in crisis. President Donald Trump claiming he's investigating corruption, not rivals. This after a string of text messages released by Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee. Caitlin Collins has details.
When I speak to a foreign leader, I speak in an appropriate manner.
President Trump stuck with that line of defense today as he was forced to defend calling on another foreign leader to investigate his political rival, something he claims has nothing to do with the upcoming election.
I don't care about Biden's campaign, but I do care about corruption.
After suggesting China should look into Joe Biden, Trump denied linking it to a potential trade deal.
One thing has nothing to do with the other.
Making that claim even though he mentioned trade right before saying this Thursday.
China should start an investigation into the Biden.
Trump hasn't personally asked China's president to launch an investigation, he says, but sources tell CNN during a summer phone call that he not only promised President Xi Jinping he'd remain quiet on pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong, he also raised Biden and Elizabeth Warren, which he says he doesn't remember.
Was that in 2017? I don't know. You'd have to tell me when.
One question Trump didn't answer today was whether he'd asked other countries to investigate someone who's not his political opponent.
You know, we would have to look.
But he did confirm he'll dare House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to hold a formal vote on an impeachment inquiry before the White House will cooperate.
Well, we'll be issuing a letter.
The White House argues Democrats don't have the authority to demand documents without one, though Democrats say otherwise.
These people are looking for anything they can get.
The Ukraine scandal overshadowing the September jobs report, which showed the unemployment rate fell to 3.5%.
They're the best numbers we've had in over 50 years.
The text messages add a new layer of detail to the whistleblower complaint that prompted the impeachment inquiry, which alleged that Trump had urged the Ukrainian government to dig up dirt on his political rival, Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden. One of the top Democratic challengers to the president held a town hall meeting in San Diego last night. Elizabeth Warren got personal and political as she brought her message of structural change before a crowd of 8,500 people. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen was there.
Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Warren comes to San Diego as she's experiencing a notable rise in the national polls. And just this week, a poll of California voters found her in first place, just barely ahead of former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders in the race for the Democratic nomination. She also picked up a San Diego endorsement Thursday.
Today, Elizabeth Warren laid out the best labor worker plan I've ever seen in my entire life because, of course, she has a plan for that.
State Assemblymember Lorena Gonzalez, who gave Warren's introduction. Warren started her speech with a familiar story about her childhood when her father suffered a heart attack and her mother was forced to start working outside the home.
And she wipes her face and pulls on that dress and puts on her high heels and walks to the Sears. And she gets a full-time minimum wage job answering phones. And that minimum wage job saved our house, and it saved our family.
Warren gave a brief history of her life. Young mother, special education teacher, law professor. She said she was drawn to the question of why America's middle class is being hollowed out. Her answer, the government is working great for drug companies, but not those just trying to fill a prescription. It works great for oil companies, but not for those who feel the threat of climate change.
And when you see a government that works great for those with big money and isn't working so well for everyone else, that is corruption, pure and simple, and we need to call it out for what it is. Corruption.
Warren's speech didn't even mention the biggest news in recent weeks, the impeachment inquiry into President Trump. She only spoke about Trump in response to a question. An audience member said the president had divided the country and asked how she would bring it back together. She said with her ideas, including a new wealth tax on people who have more than $50 million.
Not just a majority of Democrats like it, not just a majority of independents like it, but the majority of Republicans like it. And that's why we're going to win. It's why we're going to make change. And it's how we're going to start bringing this nation back together.
After Warren finished, Lee Ung of Carlsbad said he's not ready to commit to voting for the senator, but he said he's impressed by the specificity of her plans and her experience taking on big corporations.
And also the ability to kind of connect from bottom to top. I mean, she basically, like she said today in her speech, she wanted to be a special eds teacher. She had the opportunity to go beyond that and eventually rose up to the Senate and now is running for president. So that, to me, is the American story.
Christine Lopez of La Mesa is a full-blown Warren supporter. She says she likes how the senator speaks from the heart.
She has this energy that is just really contagious, I think. So it was really great to hear her kind of go through her plans, and just the way that she told her story and kind of wove her story into that it was just really, I felt like I was witnessing something special.
Like she does after every campaign event, Warren took time to pose with anyone who wanted to take a selfie with her. She also answered a few questions from reporters. When asked what she would do to address the homelessness and high housing costs that plague San Diego, she answered with one of her campaign slogans.
I got a plan for that. So I have a housing plan that would build about 3.2 million new housing units. We need a bigger housing supply in America, and we can do that by making a real federal investment, and yes, I have it paid for.
Warren probably won't be the last Democratic presidential candidate to make a stop in San Diego. With the state's early primary on March 3rd, candidates are paying much closer attention to Golden State voters than in previous elections. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
When it comes to robocalls, Californians receive some of the most in the nation. But soon those bothersome phone calls could be a thing of the past. That's the goal of a new law authored by local state Senator Ben Hueso that Governor Gavin Newsom signed this week. He says many robocalls are used by scammers to take advantage of people. The new law requires telecommunication providers to implement software that helps identify these bogus calls by no later than 2021.
We want to protect the consumer from fraud, just the same as somebody would get, robbed in the street. There's no difference.
And the law also calls for California Public Utilities Commission to work with the state attorney general's office to go after these illegal scams. The FCC says these unwanted calls are by far the biggest complaint from consumers. The U.S. Supreme Court has agreed to hear an abortion case. Justices will consider a Louisiana law that requires any doctor performing an abortion must also have admitting rights at a nearby hospital. It's nearly identical to a Texas law struck down in 2016. In that case, it was Justice Anthony Kennedy who joined with liberal justices. But this is the first abortion case to be argued since Justices Brett Kavanaugh and Neil Gorsuch joined the bench. Their appointments solidify a conservative majority, which will hear this case early next year. New concern tonight over the outbreak of measles across the U.S. The Centers for Disease Control confirms 1,249 cases of measles so far this year. In a new report, the CDC also said the number of states reporting measles cases stands at 31. As for San Diego County, there have been only 2 cases of measles reported and no active investigations underway. The number of vaping-related deaths in the U.S. just hit 20. Pennsylvania is the latest state to report a death from lung disease that could be tied to vaping. It's the first possible vaping-related death in the state. Health officials there are warning residents to immediately stop vaping any illegally purchased products and exercise caution with legal e-cigarettes. It's not known what is making people sick or if it is limited to illegal products. The Centers for Disease Control is reporting 1,080 probable cases of lung injury associated with e-cigarettes. Every year, thousands of women and men are diagnosed with breast cancer. And with October being National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, healthcare advocates are working to spread the word on how to prevent, to screen, and treat it. In tonight's Health Minute, Meredith Wood brings us some quick facts on this deadly disease.
Breast cancer. It's the second most common cancer among women in the United States and the second leading cause of cancer deaths among women overall. Each year, about 245,000 new cases are diagnosed in women in the U.S. and 2,200 cases are found in men. While the 5-year survival rate is almost 90%, approximately 41,000 women and nearly 500 men will die from it each year. Breast cancer is a disease where the cells in the breast grow out of control. While it can start in different areas of the breast, it can also metastasize and spread to other parts of the body. The two most common types of breast cancer are invasive ductal carcinoma. Here, the cancer cells grow outside of the ducts into other parts of the breast. Invasive lobular carcinoma describes cancer cells that spread from the lobules to breast tissue close by. While some people may experience symptoms, many will not. That is why experts agree regular breast cancer screenings and early diagnosis are essential. For today's Health Minute, I'm Meredith Wood.
San Diego residents looking to build or buy a new home next year will also have to get their first set of solar panels. The mandate applies to all low-rise residential, including single-family homes and apartment buildings with 3 stories or less. While the cost of the solar panels will be picked up by developers, it will be tacked on to the upfront cost of a home.
So the Energy Commission has a couple of perspectives on this. They estimated that the cost for a single unit of new residential construction would be around $8,400. It's a very conservative estimate, but they think that pencils out over time because of the cost savings in electricity over the 30-year term of that solar panel on the house.
And the state says that could amount to around $19,000. Katz says it's part of a state efforts to meet greenhouse gas reduction goals in different areas like transportation and housing. It's not what environmentalists want to hear. The federal government has opened a 725,000 acres in Central California to oil and gas drilling on land that's been off limits since 2013. The plan is part of a Trump administration goal to make the U.S. energy independent. Bureau of Land Management officials do say additional approval will be required before any drilling. Advocates will gather in Ocean Beach on Sunday for the 28th annual Paddle Out for Clean Water. The chapter is encouraging people to take part in a paddle out around the OB Pier. Mitch Silverstein hopes to draw attention to the water quality crisis in the South Bay.
Transborder sewage flows have really been devastating the South Bay communities and really turning perfect beach towns into places where you might get sick from just going out to surf or swim or bring your family to the beach. So we really want to elevate that issue and talk about the way our chapter is addressing it.
Silverstein says most San Diego County beaches are fine in dry weather. However, he says urban runoff creates problems all over the county after it rains. It might be fall, but don't let those chilly morning temperatures fool you. It's going to be warmer in the next few days. Meteorologist Daji Aswad has our weekend forecast.
Happy Friday. We were on the cooler side today once again, but we'll start to see some warmer air come our way. This front will continue to press further to the south and out to the east, but no precipitation is anticipated for tonight. And in fact, we're on the clear side, dropping down to 57 degrees for your overnight low here in San Diego. A low 49 in Oceanside, so definitely needing a jacket as you head out and about. Overnight low going to be at 62 from Borrego Springs and 48 in Mount Laguna, and also looking at pretty dry conditions. Now, as we move into your Saturday, it's very warm, points towards the east of San Diego itself. As you head near that coast, just dry, pleasant conditions. But as I mentioned, we will start to notice temperatures trying to trend warmer for Saturday through the early week. You're looking at a high of 74 for San Diego. For tomorrow, 76 in Oceanside and topping off at 96 in Borrego Springs. Looking at a high of 72 in Mount Laguna and lots of sunglass weather across San Diego County. This weekend, well, that warm up will continue here across portions of California as well as into portions of Nevada. As you head further to the east, however, we will be dealing with an upper level trough that will be swinging through portions of the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and even bringing some thunderstorms down into portions of the South Central. Now, we're not dealing with wet weather, but just a good mention if you are going to be traveling. We'll be topping off in the upper 70s for Saturday, Sunday, and even through the early week. You'll be looking at partly sunny skies for Sunday. Plenty of sunshine Monday and Tuesday, so no complaints as you head back to work or to school. You're looking at a high of 84 for inland areas tomorrow, 87 on your Sunday, so that warm air remains in place. 86 Monday and remaining in the upper 80s Tuesday, and feeling a tad bit cooler as we head into your Wednesday with a high of 79, but dry weather sticks with us. And also looking at dry conditions here in the mountains, lower 70s Saturday and Sunday, remaining in the lower 70s with pleasant conditions through Monday and Tuesday, and then in the upper 60s for Wednesday. But that sunshine continues to hold. And if you're looking for some real heat, as always, you can head to the deserts. 97 for your Sunday high, lots of sunshine. I'll be topping off at 97 for your Monday as well. Reporting for KPBS News, I'm your meteorologist, Dajia Swad. Back to you.
And we're here with Miro Kopik, marketing strategist from SDSU and co-founder of Bottom Line Marketing. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here, Miro.
Thanks, Maya.
A steady jobs report today. It helped stocks rebound from a very wild week, but there were some warning signs out there. What does this tell us about the health of our economy, in your view?
Well, it tells us that the jobs report today was kind of a middling report. Doesn't indicate growth, doesn't indicate contraction, but it was kind of a watch point. The other thing that was kind of scary in today's report was that real wages were flat and didn't grow for the first time all year. But the underpinnings of this, what made the week on Wall Street so crazy, is two indices that came out. One was for manufacturing, which the index, when these indices go below 50, they show there's a contraction in that sector. So the manufacturing sector went down to 47.8, and that's a major issue. This is the worst reading since 2009, right after the recession. What really roiled the markets yesterday is the next index on services came out, and that dropped from 56 to 52. That's a huge drop. It's the biggest drop since 2016, and prior to that, 2014. Services are 80% of the economy, over 80% of the jobs, and consumer sentiment is the third pillar. Consumers have driven the growth of the economy. Consumer sentiment is declining, and one indicator is that Americans are taking longer and longer car loans. So 72 months instead of 36 months or 48 months. This means consumers are tapped out. The next step is that the Fed is going to make, is going to talk about rate cuts in their next meeting, and that's going to be a meeting that's going to be watched by business leaders and government leaders very closely.
And in the past, we've talked about the demise of traditional retail and traditional shopping, and this week, another major brand filed for bankruptcy. What can you tell us about what's next for Forever 21?
Wow, that was kind of a surprise. Forever 21, which is one of the big stalwarts in the fashion world, especially in fast fashion. So they go from the runway to the store in a couple of weeks. Right. Them, H&M, Zara, brands like that. This retailer is caught on a couple things. Number one, super fast international expansion. So they're shutting down 60% of their international stores, but still about 35% of their domestic stores, including 3 in San Diego. And one of the reasons is consumers, young adults who shop Forever 21, their behaviors have completely changed. Since the beginning of this year, 18 retailers have declared bankruptcy. 8,200 stores have been closed year to date. That's more stores in 9 months than any year in the last 30 years in terms of retail. But one thing that's been common, and this is going to be scary for fashion retailers, is, and I sound like a broken record, are the tariffs. The tariffs that were applied in September affect mostly apparel items. So consumers are going to see price increases in a Forever 21 in November, December, and then certainly by January of 2020, all these retailers, all the clothes are going to be much more expensive.
Okay. And let's end with some big news out of the state of California. We're talking about the Fair Pay to Play Act. The NCAA obviously is against it. Will we see this in other states?
Well, this act allows student athletes actually to get representation, hire agents and to get paid for endorsement deals by companies. There's a lot of other states that are looking at this on both sides of the political aisle. You've got politicians agreeing that the law should change. So Bernie Sanders said, hey, athletes are workers, so we have to pay them. And right now there's a Republican congressman out of Ohio who's about to introduce legislation at the national level. He's a former Ohio State player and NFL player, and he agrees. And he said the federal government has to get ahead of this, or else it's going to be a mishmash of state laws, and that will create a lot of complexity in the future.
Very good points, Miro. Thank you so much, Miro Kopik from Bottom Line Marketing and SDSU.
Thanks, Maya.
President Trump renews his attack on the media as he faces impeachment. California opens the door for college athletes to get paid, and the Padres look for a new leader. Join us for the KPBS Roundtable tonight at 8:30.
Stephen King's book, Carrie, looked to a bullied young girl who developed strange powers to seek revenge. The book famously became a movie with Sissy Spacek and then a musical. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando is at Onstage Playhouse in Chula Vista as actors prepare to perform Carrie, the musical, later tonight. Hi, Beth.
Hi, that's right. I'm here at Onstage Playhouse, and in about 2.5 hours, there is going to be a production here of Carrie the Musical. And I have the actress Mary Grace Sumner, who plays Carrie. And as we mentioned, this is a character who's been bullied. So what is it like playing a character like this?
It's really interesting and inspiring, honestly. I'm a huge fan of Stephen King and of horror movies, and I think that Carrie is a really special character because she brings all the discrimination and intensity that she's faced at school and in her own home, and she becomes this strong character and uses her differences and causes some trouble.
All right, and some of the trouble she causes happens right here on the stage in the prom scene. So, James Jarvis, you are the artistic director here at Onstage Playhouse. Now, there are some challenges to putting on Carrie the Musical. What is one of the main ones here?
The main challenge we faced is getting the right ingredients to create the blood that gets poured on the actress's head and able to clean it, and all the costumes to get them back for the next night's show.
And I understand you had to go through a few different formulas for this blood.
We definitely did. We started with the formula from the San Diego Rep, which had just chocolate and a little bit of the raspberry puree that you put into mixed drinks, but that wouldn't come out of the clothes. Then we added one with dish soap, but that burned Mary Grace's eyes. So now we're actually using medical grade fake blood that they use on tests and stuff at the hospital.
So part of this is about creating an illusion on stage, but you also have to take into account kind of the practical ramifications of having blood poured onto your stage. So you've had to do some adjustments to your set.
Definitely. So we had to place the that scene as far away from the audience as possible, and then we had to place the actors who are in that scene as far away from the blood as possible, so it still looks realistic. So we came up with a platform that's right behind you. There's sieved holes in it, so when the blood falls on Carrie, it actually falls underneath into a bucket, and then the poor stage manager cleans all that up right after the show.
And this pours down from up above us, right?
Exactly, in the rafters. So we have a fake bucket and a real bucket that's there once the show starts, and then at that magic moment, the actor pulls the fake bucket and the blood falls on Carrie.
And you mentioned about cleanup. So there is one poor person, your stage manager, who after the show has to mop this whole thing up.
Yes, her name's Vanessa, and she's absolutely fabulous. We're so grateful and thankful for her. There's also a team of costumers that have to rush and soak the costumes so they're clean and not stained for the next performance. That's a lot of work.
And how's the audience been responding to this?
The audience has been responding overwhelmingly positive. I think, as we were talking earlier, the musical gets away a little bit from the horror aspect, but there's some really nice moments between the mother and Carrie and some of the students, and I think it's a pretty well-rounded story about trying our best to be kind in the end.
Great. So Carrie the Musical is here at the Onstage Playhouse in Chula Vista. It runs through November 3rd. I'm Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Thanks so much for that report, Beth. Yes, it does look like a lot of work. Talk about something we can all agree to celebrate. It's National Taco Day. No shortage of taco places here in our county. According to nationaltacoday.com, Americans ate nearly 5 billion tacos last year. So clearly, the delicious tortillas stuffed with yummy fillings deserve their own holiday today. Many restaurants like Del Taco on the border, Tijuana Flats, and Taco Bell are offering special deals. So go out for some tacos tonight, or you can always just make them at home. And if you're in the mood for a Chick-fil-A, you'll probably be waiting a while in line. That's because the popular restaurant came in dead last on a drive-through performance study. QSR magazine measures how long it takes to get food after your first approach and order window. The average wait time at Chick-fil-A clocked in at almost 5.5 minutes. Wendy's, Carl's Jr., and Burger King also performed well. McDonald's, Hardee's, and Arby's were some of the slowest. Well, no matter where you go, you're going to wait the least amount of time for breakfast and the most amount of time in the late afternoon. As always, you can find tonight's stories on our website. That's kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us tonight. Have a great evening.